Welcome, everybody, to our listening session. Yes, ma'am. Oh. Okay. Fair enough. So I'm Chris Ellner. I'm the village president. Todd Schmidt's right over here, village administrator. For those who don't know him, next to him is Adam Bentley. We are recording this, so people will be able to see it. Are we going to have it up online at some point? On YouTube. And tonight's really designed for you, for me to hear from you and give me all your feedback. I know we have public hearings next week, so this is actually very good timing for the 6 or 7 items. I don't remember if it's that. Is it 6 or is it down to 5 now? So we're down to 5 on the agenda for next week. So if you're not able to attend that meeting, you can address me on any of those that you'd like. Have a discussion. So we're having the Plan Commission meeting where we're going to have public hearings on June 7th.
I'll look.
If you want to give us all the different items.
So which line item is taken off of the 6?
I don't know if any have them. I'll check.
We started with 6, so there's one that was taken off. Or maybe we combined the 2. There's 2 on Hy-Vee, and so it might have combined those into 1 now, is what it was. So I think that's what it was. So if you want to address any of those, I'd be happy to hear from you on those, but it's really, my goal is to get information back from you tonight. I'll share some things with you that I can. I probably won't touch too heavily on some of them for basically to make sure that I don't disrupt the system and how it's supposed to operate. When we're talking about different topics, I have to make sure that I look at each item objectively and gather all information from different people, different sources, the public, the experts, some of them so-called, that we'll put out there, and take and weigh all those. And I'm only one vote of the board, as you all know. So there's seven board members that'll make decisions on all these topics. So we can talk about whatever you'd like to this evening, and I will try to address them as best I can, or Todd will, if I need some assistance from an administrative side, just because I don't have that depth of knowledge on a topic.
Or Chris, if we can't answer it, we'll make our best attempt to get those answers, which is why it's important that everybody sign in with their contact information at that table.
So what I'll probably do is if you want to say something, I'll ask you if you can just give me your name and then the question, and I'll repeat the question for everybody. Does that sound good? So everybody knows what the questions are, and we'll just go as long as we need to go. Last time our last listening session went, I think, an hour and a half longer than it was supposed to, but more than happy to do that if we need to. I'm not sure about these guys, but I'm happy to. So I'll just open up the floor for anybody who wants to have any topic that we want to discuss. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Elaine Lockwood, and I live at 301 West Main. My question is, I'm against the rezoning of 2nd Street. Before we keep going further and further down the road, my question is, can there be a referendum as to having this building put on Main Street? I have no idea what it takes to get a referendum, but it seems to be going further and further along the P wall as far as going to rezone and all this other stuff. And my question is, but there's a referendum and people won't know, that would put a halt on.
Okay, so the question was from Elaine Offenberg, and it's in regards to the rezone of the T-Wall property, and if it could go to some sort of referendum if the people were against it. And I don't know the legal side of that, if there's a referendum that we could do on that. I think that that's the elected officials' job that are elected for this, that we're supposed to gather information. Listen, obviously the neighbors have a big impact on any of this. If you've ever been to a parks meeting, I've been on that committee for many years. Similar concept happens whenever there's a group of people that live right on that park, they tend to have a pretty loud say with what's going on in that park. Even though it's a public park for the whole community, they're invited. They're the only ones that really get invited. They're there, and they give their opinions. As far as a referendum goes, I'm deferring. I don't think we could do a referendum per se.
I don't believe so specifically for that purpose, but we can get that information on whether Wisconsin municipalities has information on referendums.
The village is a member of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and they offer guidance on questions like what's a referendum possible topic. We don't know the direct answer to your question, but we can find out for you. The village attorney can help us out with that too.
I also have the plan commission agenda.
Okay,
Which one? Yeah, there's a
which one are you bringing up?
there.
The first one or the second one?
The one on the 7th.
Okay.
My name is Jim Coldis. I'm at 307 Grant Street. Lived in this town for 83 years. Is there a way to get this T-wall thing stopped without having a referendum? Seems to me there is.
Did everybody hear that, or do you want me to repeat it?
Everybody heard, okay. It's due process that they have to be given. It's due process that they have to be given. Just like anybody who would want to do anything in the village, there's a process that we go through, and everybody would expect that. Whether I'm trying to put an addition onto my home or rezoning anything. So, just say no, we can't just say no.
What is the due process?
Okay? The process we're going through right now is we'll have, well, let's go back to the very beginning. So a developer comes, they present something to staff. Staff runs it by me, typically, and the concept is then brought before the plan commission. The plan commission looks at the concept and gives thumbs down, thumbs up usually, or just gives some feedback. Okay? Then there's generally a public hearing if we're going to move it forward. And then during that public hearing, we're getting input from the citizens as well as from our experts in the field. If the plan commission deems it as something that's good, they'll vote thumbs up. If they don't, they'll thumb thumbs down. In this, if we're talking about specifically the terrace wall project, you know, he's requested that we're going to rezone the property. That's what the next thing on the agenda is there. Number 4? Number 4. So, if the plan commission decides to rezone, and I don't know which way that's going to be right now. Obviously, we're still collecting information. There was a tech staff meeting today that they were going through a lot of information with regards to the project and whether or not we're going to, or we'll hear that, just like the public will hear that. It'll be out probably Monday or Tuesday, for sure next week, the information with the packets.
Well, the meeting is on the 7th. Usually it's the week prior.
Right.
Yep.
So it should be out as soon as they can get that information out for everyone.
It'll be this week.
So this week still. Once we've not decided on that, what's our next process after that? Plan commission could say no, could say yes. After that, it would go to the village board.
Another hearing.
So the village board would then have a public hearing again with the public and decide if we're going to move forward at that point. So it would be a thumbs up or thumbs down. Mary Ellen?
Anything in the process that allows the public to present their questions or concerns for the plan?
Yeah, the public hearing for this is when that will be.
Is that going to be, do you have to fill out the same sort of forms that you have to fill out for
So the question is, you have to fill out the same kind of forms, yes.
Could you please explain what the process is? Because when I've been talking to people that haven't been to village board meetings or anything, they don't understand how you can give an opinion or a comment or whatever. So I have copies of forms made, so when people ask me questions, I can show them.
Okay, so there's two parts that we would talk about that. So first on the board agenda, we have public comment. And public comment is for anything that's not on the agenda for that evening. So it can't, you really, if it's on the agenda, we shouldn't be talking about it yet. That's a 1 minute, just give what you'd like to talk about. For public hearings, which is what this is, it's a 3 minutes that you've got to talk. We ask that you fill those forms out so we know who needs to speak, and you just randomly go through those. You can have it in writing, or if you'd like to speak, you can speak. I don't want to think, nobody think that I'm doing favoritism, right? Just as your hands go up. Ann, go ahead.
So,
Ann Lewandowski.
Ann Lewandowski, West 3rd Street. So, about the process, I understand that there needs to be a process and all that, but the Planning Commission did tell Terrence Wall no on his concept, and so I, and maybe some other people, are struggling a little bit why we're considering rezoning when he's already been told no.
Okay. I'm going to go like that, so I don't have to get blinded as they come out here. Let me just grab some water quick.
And so, I mean, maybe there's
I
a
agree.
technical reason why, that I'm not seeing, or is, so, maybe you could just elaborate a little bit on that.
So the plan commission said no with the rezone.
Well,
Not with the
with the
rezone, but
concept.
the concept as it was proposed, because it didn't meet requirements.
Okay.
In not meeting requirements, now they've asked for rezone, and I'm assuming they're going to present a different concept than what they proposed. But I don't know that at this point.
The rezone, the notion of a rezone is an attempt to achieve a set of rules that their concept could meet. So the concept process doesn't involve an application. That's not an application process or really a formal process whatsoever besides getting feedback from the commission. The first technical application that he has made is in fact this rezone. That's his first step he's applied for. So that's what he has the right to as Chris pointed out.
Is the first one in the PUD, the concept that you need? The PUD requirements, is that a bit technical question?
I think that was one of the conceptual zoning ideas that wasn't suitable. One of the reasons was because the Plan Commission expressed disinterest in changing the code to reduce the size of a PUD lot to less than 5 acres. So they made that clear with their decision to research the modifications to the code.
Okay, just as a follow-up though, I mean, when you're looking at rezoning to C1D, all of the ordinances and setbacks and things that he didn't meet with his first application still apply, because my understanding is with the ordinances, if you rezone to a higher level that's abutting the residential, he still has to meet those setbacks, and he doesn't meet them. He gets a little bit more density, absolutely, but he doesn't meet the setbacks still.
Those are going to be aspects.
Okay. Okay,
Yep,
I'm
that's-
sorry.
That's what I was, so those are aspects we'll discuss at the public hearing that I shouldn't talk about tonight.
Well, I think that's why we're kind of, the first two steps are that the developer presents to staff and presents to you, and if they haven't met the requirements when they present it to staff, why is it moving forward? That's where we're struggling.
Okay, so the question was, why should we, if they've already presented to staff and we said no, why should we be proceeding at all? Is that right?
Yeah, basically,
I
because
just wanna
that
make
was
sure
your
I'm
first two
paraphrasing that.
steps, yeah.
Okay, so,
Yes, staff hasn't stopped an application process just because staff or the village president dislikes it. That process is still afforded to an applicant.
Sandy Taylor.
Okay. Sandy Taylor, 121 West Main Street. I have a couple questions and they're pretty quick. Number 3 about, on your form about constructing a pylon sign exceeding the height square footage allowed. Could you explain that a little bit more? Because I don't get why everybody, if you have things set in place in the village and you guys are working on refining it and doing everything right for your ordinances and your height restrictions, why do people keep trying to go above, beyond, bigger, wider, taller when you have these things set? So can you, first of all, that's number 1 on here. Number 3, about asking for a bigger pylon sign for Monticello Square.
Well, the answer is people are afforded the opportunity to apply. It doesn't require the Plan Commission to grant it.
Okay, just because, like I said, when I had a sign, I had to follow the requirements and I didn't try and go and change that. I mean, I followed the signs and the rules for that. The next one is about both the commercial rezoning portion of it. I know Todd was in on it with the Facebook about changing that. People are also commenting it already. I mean, I've seen probably 20 comments out there about, and I don't know the street now, I'm sorry to say, but where the duplex and the business have extended, whatever road that is. Thank you. That's just a small, I mean, if you see that and how close that is, and there's no parking slot, I mean, and I love the people who are there in the building and things, but I've seen nothing but debates and problems and things going on about there's 9 businesses all in one and they don't have any required parking, and now they've got 4 stalls behind the alley and they're running up to the alley, and this duplex is this monster thing. I hadn't even gone by that road until this weekend, because I saw the comments on Facebook, and it does look like a monstrosity, and if you think that's bad, which it's pretty darn big, just only imagine what the T-wall property is gonna look like. That's just, that's a great indication for you as a board, just to take a little walk and go down and see that, because it does overpower the whole space. From a design, an interior design concept for commercial, it's gigantic for that space. So that's just something that you can bring up for as another allocation of that, but people are going back and forth about the parking and how it butts up to the alley. So in continuing to that is, we had Hubdy now start their project and all of that. When is that road going through? Because I'll be honest with you, as a safety factor, which I know you walk, I thought the road was gonna go through before the alley was shut down and all the sidewalks were taken away. Because to be honest with you, a safety factor, like these past few nights when it's been hot, I've been going on some walks and things, and it is a nightmare to walk that with no sidewalk, no alleyway to go through. When is that road gonna be done? To help alleviate some of the unsafe features around that place.
I don't know, I think the construction process starts in October.
For the road?
We can.
Oh, that's good.
But we can, yeah, I think the construction, the contracts are let. I don't think the building's been demolished yet. But
That's gotta happen.
Yeah, the contracts are let,
Okay.
including the demolition contract. So,
Okay, just
that-
because it is bad, because there's no light, if you drive down there, right where that alley where if you just go south, it's pitch black at 9 o'clock at night. So when you're out, you might even want to put up a temporary light or something there right now. It's just very unsafe. Because the frames are out in the road, it's just a fact. Somebody's gonna get hurt, and legal
Sounds good.
reasons.
We'll bring that back to the meeting and
Yeah.
see if we can do that.
And then the last thing is 6, sorry, I'm going through all of them and then I'm gonna be leaving. Number 6, about the square foot, what is our big box clause now? What is the square foot?
The ordinance?
Yeah.
We allow building up to 50,000 square feet
Okay.
by permitted use. Above
Okay.
50 and under 75,000 square feet is a conditional use, and above 75 is not permitted.
So number 6 also would be not within our current ordinances, correct?
No, it is a conditional use that's allowed.
Okay,
It's under 75,000.
okay, thank you.
Jan, right?
Yeah, right. 204 West Second Street, so it's right in front of my face. And getting back to the meeting at the Village Hall with the Plan Commission, and they talked about trying to fit his project into what is already in our limit system, within our statute, so to speak. He came back when we had our meeting last week. He didn't change anything. There's nothing changed in his project to fit into what's already in our limitations. So he's coming back, so he again can come and confront you and ask for changes to fit what he wants into what we have. The planning unit district, or whatever that is 5 acres. He's got 2.3. He's made no concessions at all to change anything to fit it in there. We don't want it that way. I'm mad.
I don't think I can, I don't know if I can remember everything, but did everybody hear that?
I think everybody must have heard it. I can project.
Good on that.
I'm very upset.
My best analogy for that, and I'm not trying to dismiss what you're saying, is when I was young, I would go to my father and ask for things. Usually the answer was no. Let me check that. About 99% of the time it was no.
So we compromise.
No, it was pretty much no throughout my life.
Okay, so then how come T-Wall doesn't hear no is no?
So there's people that are going to be determined with things, and they're going to hear no. They're used to hearing no, but they don't give up. And he has the right to continue to ask. That doesn't mean he's going to be rampant. I'm like I said, I'm one board member, but just because he's asking doesn't mean he's going to be rampant.
Okay, Is the board listening? We're saying no.
The hearing process, Chris. The hearing process.
Yeah, the public hearing process is what we're going to become. And
Well, I'm here.
I can tell you that we've been hearing it since it was originally presented in December.
But the public one that was at the village hall was public, wasn't it? The plan commission
The village
meeting?
center meeting?
Yes, when T-Wall projected this and the plan commission was just aghast, they said, oh, we've never seen this before. Well, holy Moses, did you see that project that he had there in front of their faces? And they said they'd never seen it before, and they said there was nothing in his project that fit into anything that was on the books now. But here we go, we're back at it again, and he hasn't changed a thing.
So what he's trying to do is change the rules
Right.
in changing the reason.
Well, yeah, yes.
Which is his right to try to do.
And we don't have any rights.
Well, of course you have rights.
Aisha.
Aisha.
Dale, 102 West Third Street. So with the public hearings, from my few times that I've come to meetings, I understand the process now, but what I don't feel is that our voices are heard at those hearings, and that a lot of times my impression is that it's too late by the time we get to the hearing. And a lot of people, a lot of people in my age category have a lot of children and have sports and events, and if we're coming to these meetings, we want it to be meaningful. We want our time to be used in a way that makes difference. And if what I think you just said is like that's the way to make sure our voices are heard, how do we make sure that the community knows that that's like the only chance? I mean, not the only chance, but like that's kind of what you were saying, is that's the only chance to really be heard, and it's like one shot, you know? And I guess what I'm asking is if there's other ways that people that can't come to that meeting can provide information that will actually be listened to, because I do think that the community as a whole should have say in what's happening and how things go forward. And it's not just the T-Wall, you know, other areas in Waunakee are being affected by all of this growth that's happening.
Okay.
Was
Did
I loud
everybody hear?
enough?
Did everybody hear?
Use your voice? Okay.
So I'll just comment on a couple of things that you just said. The biggest one that I heard you say was that we really listen. Are we really listening to everybody? The answer is absolutely. And I don't want to say that I'm offended when people say that I'm not listening, but I really am. Okay, I grew up in this community. This is very, very dear to me, what happens here. Just like it is for you. Maybe even a little bit more. Right, as a result of that. All the different things that we do, every single thing that the village board decides to do has an impact, positive or negative, on different places within the community. So each one is taken very seriously, for me. And I know the other board members feel the same way. So, you're right. This room is amazing. All right, I had four listening sessions that we did. And there was usually Todd, myself, and 2 or 3 other people. So one good thing, no matter what happens out of this Terrence Walton, is that people have engaged. So we know what you're thinking. All right? Facebook, you get to swirl things around in Facebook and on social media. Some of it's right, some of it's not. Some of it's somewhat right, some of it's somewhat wrong. That's just the nature of what we're dealing with in today's world. But you're absolutely right. Coming to the meetings, the board members are listening. We're weighing in each thing and how it's going to impact. Who's it going to impact? Who's going to have the biggest impact on it? So that's my response is we're absolutely listening. We might not always agree. Okay, that's fair. Okay, you may have this opinion, you may have this opinion. All right, I choose not to say as much as I probably could, and I learned that recently. Who do you think I learned it from? I have a really good governor. There's somebody else in our society that doesn't. And he was just giving a Memorial Day speech yesterday. okay? I choose not to go that route. I respect each and every one of you, and I want to hear from you. I may not know every answer, and that's why I have staff and others that can give me the answers. But it's important for you to tell me what you're thinking. Mary. And Mary, I found out, I didn't know this, but I found out this weekend that you were a classmate of my older brother.
Yes, that's correct.
Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I found that out this weekend.
Mary Heinbrecher, 06 West 3rd Street. I have a concern also about the traffic and safety of people trying to cross Main Street. I'm specifically concerned for my handicapped nephew who tried to cross Main Street at O'Malley and Main. He lives on O'Malley, comes down O'Malley to get over to Walgreens. And there are times he tries and he waits 10, 15 minutes before anybody else stops for him at that crosswalk. Something needs to be done at that crosswalk by the roundabout.
O'Malley and what was the other one?
What, Main?
O'Malley, Maine.
Yeah, so it's right by the BP, kind of, right there where the roundabout is. Nobody wants to stop there. And it's, he has no way, he doesn't drive, so he has to take his wheelchair up. And nobody stops. He's had police officers stop traffic for him after they've gone through the roundabout a couple times and he's still waiting. And that's only going to get worse as the density on Main Street gets worse. So something has to be done about crossing walks and safety for pedestrians on that road.
I couldn't agree more. I walk the road. Sandy knows because I stop almost every time. Not almost every time, but often.
One street black on that. It's just a safety issue. I know it stinks because if you, especially if he's handicapped and he's in a wheelchair. But if you go one crosswalk further back from the roundabout, it's much safer.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, like I said, I should look like Amy does, maybe, you know, me and Chris need to, obviously Amy's doing twice the miles, me and Chris or something, but when we walk, but if you go one further, I'm ripping on Chris, I'm sorry, I included myself. But if you go one back, it is much safer to cross, even when I go at night sometimes, 10 o'clock at night, which is awful to say, but I would suggest for the time being until something's done, just go one crosswalk further away.
Yeah, I'm just saying it because I was at all the roundabout meetings and they showed this wonderful little graphic where everybody was stopping for pedestrians and then going when they were trying to tell us on this ridiculous roundabout, so. Make it safe.
Okay. Nyla Fry.
Nyla Fry, 404 East Williams Avenue. This question, I'm changing the topic a little. I've been concerned about workforce housing for many, many years. I'm wondering, as Waunakee develops, where our workers are going to live. And I've asked staff previously why we don't have workforce housing, why it hasn't been put in development plans. And I was told at one point by one staff member, it's due to the fact that a developer has not come and approached Waunakee about doing workforce housing. So then I'm checking and looking at information, and I have come to the conclusion that perhaps the village has not had a developer come and want to do workforce housing because we don't have any really set goals pertaining to workforce housing in the comprehensive plan. We don't say we want this many units within this many years, as far as I know, unless it's been changed from what I could see when I was reading it. So, correct me if I'm incorrect about this information, but we, you know, if it's not in the comprehensive plan, how do we get people interested in presenting workforce housing to the village?
Fair question. We did have that situation before Southbridge was built. Viridian Home owned Southbridge, that area. I believe it was Southbridge. And they couldn't make it work financially and ended up selling that land. So it's possible to have a developer, but they couldn't make it work. And I do think it's a focus right now that we want to have affordable housing, workforce housing. You had another term for it too, Nyla. What was the other one?
Affordable?
Not affordable, workforce. You had another term that you had brought to me. I can't remember what it is right now, but you know, inclusive. That was it. Inclusive workforce housing. I would, the challenge we have is who wants their house value to go down in the room? Okay? For the taxes. So if you're ever gonna sell that home, most people don't want their homes to go down in value. And, you know, if I'm living in any of the areas and a nice subdivision goes in next to me, what happens to the value of my home? It generally goes up as well. So on the reverse of that is if there's a lower income housing or affordable housing or that, which is right next to it, what happens potentially to that home landowner? So you get both sides of it are going to, somewhere in the middle is where you got to find them.
But that's why you don't do an entire development, workforce housing, you sprinkle it in here and there, you don't have one huge development of workforce housing. You spread it out and you may have you don't do a whole building of workforce housing, you do a building that's mixed income housing.
So okay, let me ask you this, just if I'm following what you're saying. So you have let's just say we have a 40 house development and you take 35 or 30 of them are in normal price range we are right now, which is not affordable by a lot of people's standards. And then you mix 5 or 10 different levels of housing in with that? Is that kind of what you're proposing?
No, well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, even like the
Kind of, but yeah. I mean, I realize they probably couldn't be single-family homes with the price of land, et cetera. But there has to be ways to work in affordable workforce housing for people. I don't know what's going to become of Waunakee if we don't have workers living here who can afford to live here.
Well, Gary's got his hand up, but I'm going to ask you a quick question. Before I get to it, Gary, can you define affordable workforce housing?
Yes.
Nyla,
Oh, me?
define affordable workforce?
The research I've been doing tells me that the median income in county is right at $15 and some cents. They said if that wage, a worker making that wage would have to work over one job, 40 hours a week, 52 hours a year, or 52 weeks a year, to be able to afford a housing. So what I'm saying is we need to come up with housing that that can be paid for by the people who are working to be able to afford it. So, when I'm talking workforce housing, I'm saying when if people are making $15 an hour, you need some kind of housing so that people can live in, or else do we want everyone driving from 2 hours out, and that doesn't pressure for our economy either. If we have people who work here, live here, and buy here, then that's spurring the economy too.
Okay, Gary, Gary Hertzberg, by the way.
Workforce housing, affordable housing, it's kind of a buzzword, but if you ask anybody, it's hard for them to find what it really means. It makes me feel good because, gosh, anybody should be able to live here. And if that's the case, we don't have a parameter of what affordable or what workforce housing is. Is that you have an income of $60,000 a year, $80,000, $120,000, is it $40,000? What is income level for workforce housing? I think that's one thing we have to define. The other thing that we have really had that I can recall over the last 100 years is any business coming to us saying, you know what, my employees can't afford to live here. You need to do something for us. So it's kind of a combination. We need to have, if there's employers out there that say, you know what, we need to have workforce housing available in Waunakee. Not for them, at least that I can recall that. But then we also have to define what workforce housing is. Section 42, is it, what are the parameters? Is it housing? Is it rentals? I mean, I think it's a bigger picture. It's easy to talk about it. Everybody likes to say it, but nobody knows really what the definition is.
And perhaps that's something the Economic Development Commission could work on. Perhaps that's something the Planning Commission could work on with the Economic Development Commission. We have committees and staff that could analyze and with people coming in and explaining what workforce housing is, perhaps we could get some answers instead of just throwing it around and being told that, why you can't do it because of the land. I just want to find a solution.
Yeah, I think that would be a very good task for a subcommittee of one of those committees that you're referring to. A specific reason that we're doing it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I can add more on
The plan commission, and the village board instructed in its review of the code and code changes that they recommend, that affordable housing, or actually the aspect of the ratio of 75 single family to 25 multifamily, be reviewed and studied along with a number of other aspects of housing development. So one of the requests was that be assigned to a subcommittee, some sort of committee be formed to engage the public and address that question. Staff has researched potential solutions or those who can assist us with that process, and we're going to be presenting those thoughts to the village board on July 16th, which will be when they can consider a process then to undertake and how they want to engage the public in that. So the direct answer is we agree that requires study, and that process is going to be, the initiation of that process is going to be starting July 16th at the village board meeting. Not the formation of the committee, but perhaps discussing the ways in which that can be approached, which will likely lead to a subcommittee.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Elizabeth Teeter. Elizabeth Teeter.
Lexington Lane.
Lexington Lane.
I'm wondering what the long-term plan for Main Street is. I know a couple of years ago, we didn't want, to be 4 lanes like the DOT wanted. And with all of the, traffic coming in, are we gonna have to have that? And if so, are we gonna think about rerouting Main Street somehow? Or it's not good for anybody if you can't even get across, for the businesses or any of us. And what is the big plan?
So the question is, what is the long-term plan for Main Street with traffic? Because 4 lanes was proposed a couple years back before the roundabout, and what it is. Tim, this is good one for maybe the county and the state. I can't speak to what the state is going to want to do for Main Street because it is a state highway. They wanted to have 4 lanes. And what happened? The people said no, and the state listened. And so we have 2 lanes. There's been talk about a North Mendota Parkway to come around the north side for 25 years? 25 years. And based on budgets and everything and where those are, they're probably 25 years at least away from even having that happen again. So as far as traffic on Main Street, I don't think you're going to see it decrease for some time. I think it'll continue to be a busy street, heavily used street, and I don't know what else I can say about the roads at this point. But as far as development, do you want to know development too, or are we talking just the roads situation?
Well, it seems like that all goes together with more people, more cars.
Which is something that we'll be weighing here very carefully with these proposals and what density we already have, which we just put in place. And we don't even know what that impact really is going to be yet. There's our so-called experts that say what the traffic patterns are going to be and what the interchanges are going to be, but we have to wait and see that. So that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing, how we do respond to it. And then they can make tweaks and changes with the lights on Main Street, try to get traffic moving a little bit more effectively, but we also have to take in the pedestrian side of it too. I had this cockamamie idea for pedestrian. And I get laughed at when I come up with some of these ideas, but I think it's important to have ideas. So I said, why don't we put a tunnel under Main Street for people to walk under? Okay? Or why don't we go over Main Street with a bridge? Okay? They didn't go very far for an idea, but it was a thought that I had. There were different reasons why both didn't work, because it's a state highway, but I understand what you're talking about with the traffic. Mary Ellen?
Well, I have a question in terms of the traffic as long as we're talking about that. You know, we still don't know what impact on traffic is going to occur because of the update building
Right.
that's going on. And that T-Wall has just been doing traffic studies when school is out and they don't have all that school traffic. And he's not gonna have the concept of what the traffic is gonna be.
So far the comment is we had the Hovde traffic, which I just talked about, and then T-Wall's been doing studies during school, or not during school hours, non-school days,
When they're
for us. And, go ahead now.
And I just, you know, you can't predict what isn't there yet, and then he's planning his traffic flow as though it's all gonna be okay.
Yeah, he's gonna present, and we're gonna take all that information and the facts of the situation. Just like we're gonna hear public input, we're gonna have information before we make any decision. That's what the public hearing is for us to get all those facts as well.
But even in terms of the concepts of development, wouldn't it be helpful to have one development that's underway before you even really consider the next?
So, I think the question was, should we wait until even to consider until one is done? Is that
Yeah.
on that? So the developers are gonna present, they can present with their own timing. Now, if I was a developer, I'll just hypothetically, and I knew that there was a situation, hypothetically in Waunakee, and I wanted to develop something, and somebody else had just developed, and there was a little bit of an uproar, well, I don't want to say uproar, there was a little bit of an uprising against that. I may want to defer my project for a little while. That's me. That's not how all developers work though. So, I'm gonna try to speak without spoken yet, and then I'll come back. Yes, ma'am. Barb Drazen,
203 7th Street.
203 7th Street.
This is my first time, and I can't make the 7th, I really have time. So I'm hearing all these different things, and I have lots of questions that are similar to what's been asked. And my main concern is, yes, this is Main Street, okay. Are you trying to get businesses in here that are going to survive? You know, you get all these little shops. Do you want us to be a Mount Orb or a mini Chicago? Because I see Waunakee changing from the original of these people that were born here, like you said. You're from here, your grandparents probably were from here.
Not my grandparents, my parents.
You know, and I want to keep this a small farming community that it was when we moved here. I mean, I've been here, and I left for 2.5 years, and now we're back, and, you know.
So I can for sure answer one of the parts of that. I don't like Chicago. I don't want to be a mini Chicago. I don't like anything about Chicago. So I can say that I won't be supporting anything that's going to make us like Chicago. Mount Horeb, what, you're saying you'd rather stay like Mount Horeb, or?
No, I don't want to be like Mount Horeb with all these shops, because I feel these shops aren't surviving, that some of them that have been here already, and the ones that they want to put on me. I just can't see it. I'd rather have a grocery store, a second one, because people have to eat. You know?
I agree with that as well. We're working towards that grocery store.
I hope so. And
So-
another thing, why can't some of that, like you said, that workforce apartments be out in the tyranny development, or instead of the high-end house? If we have to be forced out of our house, I'm not gonna be able to afford an apartment on our fixed income.
So I'm not going to answer that right this second, but what I can tell you, well, you're going to have to be at the public hearing. So I will,
I hope somebody.
Let me
so the answer is, there's proposed multifamily housing out there. That you'll hear about. I think they'll hear about that on the 7th. Yes?
Regarding
As
the
part of that
Woodland
whole-
Crest, as part of the Woodland Crest.
Yeah, so you'll hear about that happening.
We don't have Facebook and that.
Consider yourself lucky in that. Tim?
Sure.
I said I'd come back. You're next.
So I'll stand up so you can see me and hear me. So I'm Tim Kiefer, 205 Kearney Way. I represent the village on the county board. I wanted to just briefly address 2 points that have been made in some of the other comments. First, with regards to Main Street, not only am I totally opposed to 4 lanes on Main Street, the Dane County Board is also on record as opposing it. We officially voted several years ago to oppose that. We're also on record as supporting the North Mendota Parkway, and we could do an entire town hall about the North Mendota Parkway saga. Suffice it to say, it's something I'm working on, and I've been doing the whole time I've been on county board. It's a long process. And the other thing, with regards to particularly Nyla's comment about inclusive housing, the Main and Madison apartments, that had county investment in it, specifically so there would be housing within it, apartments within there, that was designated for lower income people who are disabled. And the county stands ready, willing, and able if there are similar projects like that in the future. I think it's very important if someone's son or daughter is disabled and they're not high income and they want to be able to stay in this community, for them to have affordable options, and for the elderly too, and to be inclusive for everyone. So I think it's a great point, Nyla, and I know the county is definitely willing to work with the village on future projects like Maine Madison, which I think have been very successful.
Thanks, Tim.
My name is Bob Gross.
Bob Gross,
I live at 1119 Ireland Drive.
1119 Ireland Drive,
Kilkenny,
in Kilkenny,
which is within Waunakee.
which is within Waunakee.
I don't want to talk about zoning or any of that kind of stuff, and I hope that I can bring up a small issue here.
Doesn't want to talk about zoning, but he's going to bring up an issue that's important.
Well, it is to me and other drivers. I come off of Q to get into Ireland Drive. In the process, I go on Waterwheel. On Waterwheel, there are 2 stop signs that have been put up for no reason whatsoever. So there's nothing going on. The only thing that I can think of is that it's a good thing for the police to be able to pick people up. A whole lot of people blow those stop signs because there's nothing happening. I have pictures that I'm not going to show you about it. There is some future development that's going to go, and there are a couple of crosswalks where the stop signs are put up. But right now, there's absolutely, in my opinion, and other people that I've talked to who drive any reason for those stop signs to be there.
So, can I just ask one thing?
Yeah.
So I think you were talking about, so you turn by Waunakee Community Bank, and you go down,
Yes.
and then there's a stop signs that are just in front of there.
Yep.
I believe, you guys check with Kevin
Here they
and
are.
Parks.
Here they are.
Yes. Where those are, what the reason for those are, is there's going to be a park right there, and I believe that that's why the stop signs are put in there, for that crosswalk purposes going
Okay,
across.
that's great. When there's something there. But right now, it's with the cornfields. And there's no reason whatsoever to have it.
Right, I would
And
guess,
a lot of places where there are crosswalks in the Kilkenny subdivision, there are no stop signs. So,
yeah, I don't know this for sure, and maybe you do. If we don't put them in there to start with, people get used to not having a stop sign to go through.
come on. When there's a stop sign, there's a stop. When there's not,
I know that happened in 6 Mile Creek with the one we put in, that there was a lot of problems with that.
I mean,
So after the fact, that people were used to going through, and then all of a sudden we put a stop sign, it was like, nobody was stopping at the stop sign.
but that happens all the time with new construction. And these things, I mean, there's 2 of them there within, I don't know, 50 yards. And that really, all it does is make me use more of my brake pads and the gasoline would start.
I think the true reason for them, and the reason we didn't delay in installing them, was to deter people from using Waterwheel as a cut through to get up to Peace Valley and going through the primarily residential component of the neighborhood. The desire is to send people to Peaceful Valley to make their way across into the other portion of Southbridge there. So perhaps the practicality of those can be reviewed. We'll talk to engineering about that and ask whether they're working or not. But truly the reason is because of the desire to keep the residential traffic only for the local area where you live, along Ireland, as opposed to that becoming a major thoroughfare up to Peaceful Valley.
Okay, I've heard that argument.
Well, that's the reason why,
That's
from our
fine.
prior discussions.
That's fine, but there are, if you take those out, there's still 4 other stop signs on Waterloo. And there's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
So we'll talk to engineering as to whether they work or not, and if there's a good reason to reconsider it, I think it's worth reconsidering.
Yeah, I mean, at least right now, they should be covered, because there's nothing happening.
I think the first step, and this is talking about process again, shouldn't you reach out to Public Works to see if you can get on Public Works Committee that they could review that with police as well?
Yeah,
That would be the process.
usually it's collaboration between engineering and police, and I'm willing to start that discussion for you and have that area.
Okay, yeah.
And we have your address to follow up with you.
Okay.
I'll be sending you.
I'm not the only one. There are other people that you said.
Did you sign it?
I just got a couple of unanswered questions, and it bounced around so much, so they're not in order with this, but, I understand the two processes, when you talked about T-wall earlier, but, I'm kind of amazed, because, as you said, I started coming to meetings in December on this. And what I heard was, this is their first, I don't know what you want to call it.
First formal application.
Right, well, no, we've been talking about it for 6 months, saying no. What were we doing for 6 months?
So, how many votes did the village board take on this matter so far?
That even did. My goodness, the planning
None.
commission and I, I was totally amazed when we were up at the village center and that whole group was up in front and it hadn't even been presented to them. And they're the folks who decide about zoning. They were shocked. You could tell.
Yeah, there's a difference between a conceptual presentation and an application to do this. So the conceptual, they heard feedback,
Several times, right?
but that still doesn't mean they can't submit an application.
So they could break this on another 3 years.
If they want to keep resubmitting different things, sure. Just like anybody
Because I
can.
mean, that's costing the village a lot of time and I hear money.
Who else? It's
Well,
costing
but-
them money too, the other developers keep coming back and changing
Well,
the
you
scheme
got
and
it.
different things.
But, that is a concern. And then, one more thing. I don't know, is there a limit to how much this money you hand out at a time? I mean, people are starting to be so concerned about their taxes and what's gonna happen because of the number of tips that are kind of like opened up this year along with, our own library.
Okay.
I'll follow up.
There's, the accurate answer is as to, are there limits on TIF? There's limits to the amount of property within a village that can be within TIF districts. That's established by state law. We're very well beneath that, but that's not reason to add more land. I'm not saying that. But, the other thing is that when the village board creates a TIF district, and the joint review board does as well, they create a project plan. That project plan lays out expenses related to the district, projects that can be funded, and the obligation of the village is to follow what's established by the project plan. So limits are established by the project plans themselves. So the answer to the question is yes. I can provide you, if you care for it, the link or You can stop in the village hall and review those if you care to, but it lays out potential expenses within the district.
Did that answer your question?
I understand it, I don't agree with it, but yeah, it did.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm
Linda
just
Ashmore.
thinking forward, okay, so he's gonna go to the plan commission meeting, and if the village plan commission says no to T-wall, can they also put some restrictions on him, saying, okay, you're keeping it RCD, and if that's what happens, and don't come back here again until you meet your density requirement. Because that's what we're very frustrated with, is that we're coming to all these meetings, we're, watching things much more closely maybe than you guys would like. But it just seems like he's driving this, and citizen input really doesn't happen as much, or isn't listened to. And I know you don't like to hear that, but there were 266 petitions signed for that height ordinance in 2 days. So.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Everybody need to
No, what
repeat
did you say about that numerical part? Because there's so many,
The petition signing for the Hubby height restriction, those were collected on a weekend, 266 signatures, and it wasn't listened to. It was like, we're doing this anyways and it doesn't matter. And there's a lot of frustration with that. They're changing the ordinances when we said, okay, there's things that don't match. Oh, then we'll change the ordinance instead of you have to follow the ordinance.
So the other part of it was, is this gonna, I just want to paraphrase now, we don't have shit, so I don't want to miss anything. So if I say something wrong, correct me, okay? So the zoning, if whatever we decide to do with the zoning on Thursday,
Right.
the 7th, which is next Thursday. I'm being cautious of what I say for a good reason. There'll be a couple options for the committee that we can do. And those could be as simple as no, straight up no. It could be, could be simple as no. It could be, no, we're not gonna agree to rezone.
It could be feedback tabled and brought back if the changes made.
I'm trying to think what it is. It could be yes. That's what it was. It could be yes. And it could be, I guess it could be just no to the rezone, and we're not in favor of anything that the plan is on.
But the restrictions, other than tabling, you can't, you don't need to do that.
Well, if it's a no to the rezone, I think it would probably be, any attorneys in the house?
Okay, you can table
I mean,
it for the answer.
if it's a no, there's always a potential for a lawsuit to come up from anybody. So that's that. So I'm not gonna, that's where I'll leave that right now, if that's okay. So next week. All right, so good.
Kathy Carney, 804 North Fairbrook, and also 210 West Main Street. Just a kind of a question relative to the public hearing. I think we had Mrs. Drazen who said that she isn't able to make it to the public hearing on the 7th, and so she wouldn't be able to speak in terms of whether she's opposed or for. Is there a vehicle for folks that aren't able to make it to the meeting to go on record in terms of if they support or if they oppose?
Yeah, I mean, they can submit it in writing, or they can email to us, whatever they want to say.
Are those the note at the meeting?
They can't, do we always read those? I don't know that we always read those. We try to, whatever we get.
If we get them ahead of time, so if you were to submit them this week, we would include them within the packet for the members of the commission. Therefore, they have a chance to absorb and read them. If somebody brings something in writing the day of, and we don't have ample time to provide it to the commission to review prior to the meeting, then we would probably look at reading it for the record so that the commission's aware of it.
Do people just need to, if people submit an email, do they just, in the subject line, need to say for public comment? Like, how do you want people to phrase that so you know that they want it to be included?
If it's sent to me, that's what I would prefer.
Okay.
I would like this to be read
At the meeting.
at the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, be specific about the item you're interested in, and that'll help us get it to the right.
Mrs. Webster.
One, I have a comment that kind of goes, I'm Lee Webster, 204 West Third Street, that kind of goes along with Nyla's part about affordable housing. This is just a comment. So my husband and I, when we first moved here, we were both teachers. We were new teachers. And I taught in Lodi, he taught in the forest, we were here. We would carpool, and there was probably a half a dozen people from Lodi that I could carpool, at least a dozen people that my husband could carpool with in the forest. Now my husband, being more of a veteran teacher, is continuing still teaching. Whenever I meet new teachers, and I ask them where they live that are from the forest area, or even from Waunakee, or other communities, where do you live? Sun Prairie. Sun Prairie has put together programs to attract teachers. And I think it would be, since the education system here in Waunakee is a pillar of our community, I think it would be important for you to look at some of those new teachers and where are they choosing to live. Can they afford to live here? No. Most of them are going to the forest or Sun Prairie, maybe they're in Madison, but a lot of them are choosing not to come here because they can't afford to live in the community, even if they're teaching here. And I think that that's going to affect the long-term stability of our education system. We don't kind of recruit some of those teachers. That's just my own, it would be something interesting to look at as the new teachers one. And I have another piece of, I kind of came in late, so I'm not sure if anyone talked about it, but I live on 3rd Street, close to West Street, which is where RG Heating is located. And when you are traveling west on 3rd Street, there's always going to be cars parked during the day on West Street. West Street is a through street from the high school, as most of you will know. And so you get a lot of young traffic on that street. And being that I live there, I walk that neighborhood, and I do in-home daycare, so we walk with little kids. And that is a really blind intersection. And so one of my main concerns about changing 2nd Street there to commercial, also looking at the participation of the T-wall or to take over that, is that we're going to be looking at a lot more parking on West Street, on 2nd Street, and creating a lot of intersections that are going to be blind. And you're going to have a lot of young people driving in that area. And so that is a huge concern, I think, that should be considered when we're talking about that.
Agreed. That was actually my route to Hardee's,
Sure.
which was before Burger King and which was before the auto parts store. So yes, I totally know what you're saying. Any other duties first? Yes,
I'm Peggy Courier, 415 Skyview Drive.
Peggy Courier?
And my husband and I, he has to works 8:30 night. We both don't want to keep a big box store place for our Sun Prairie. And we want to make sure that these big developers don't just come in here and spend, earn their money and leave. And I wanted to know, has anybody looked into other T-wall projects and what kind of issues they might have with those projects, like mold or whatever?
Oh, yes.
And it's like, sure, we'll just rezone for you and let you do whatever you want, and then you go, you said, what? Okay, and then it's moldy or whatever. We're just kind of shocked. We need to talk to them.
Okay, so I don't think that we said sure we'll rezone for you.
No, I mean, you know what I mean. He comes in and he says, I want to do business with you, and I'm against rezoning developers because there's a place, there's a reason that it's kind of place. Because we don't want things to change them so that there's big high-rise takings and maybe you want to have the tallest building. The tallest thing you see in Waunakee should really be the church steeple, not a big have to worry about pedestrians and affordable housing and the handicap, and everybody getting across. It is really hard right now on Madison Street and on Main Street to walk, because I feel like everyone who walks their dog at night should wear like safety vests and watch their food, because it's really hard to see them.
Did everybody hear all that? So there was a lot there. I'll try to paraphrase but the best I can. The last part was Madison Street, dangerous crossing. People should wear reflective clothing and things to protect themselves. Don't know how we want to rezone for Terrence Wall because he has other projects that we should be looking at and making sure, which we do vet all of them. I don't know the claim, but the claim is that there's mold in his buildings and so on and so forth. I mean, that's
what I've heard.
yes. So, did I
Does
do it right?
the village of Waunakee look into the developer's history of their projects that they currently have done to see if there's issues before even saying, okay, we'll take your application without looking at the person's history?
Yeah, part of their application process is that. So, yes, ma'am.
Joanne Buchanan Rounds.
Joanne Buchanan Rounds.
On 2nd Street.
2nd Street.
104. My heart just aches, I guess, because of seeing the hometown atmosphere being destroyed by big, huge buildings. And I like to see the houses, the homes, and the families. The neighborhoods are, when I moved here, we had a neighborhood that we knew each other, and we still do. When a big community comes in, like all the apartments, I think you're going to lose a lot of the hometown community spirit.
So when you say all the apartments, can you kind of just give me a background on
Well,
that?
just T-Wall.
T-Wall specifically.
If you
So,
tear that down, and
yeah,
and change the whole atmosphere of Main Street and the community.
yeah.
Seems like.
I can't remember right now. I'm trying to think back before Main and Madison was built, what the last apartment building was that was built previous to that. Does anybody know?
Cottages on Main, aren't those apartments above?
Oh,
Was that newer than
2 units,
Madison
2
on Main?
units, and that's 2 units. So we're
I
not
mean,
talking.
that's what I had envisioned, when I read the comprehensive plan which I have in front of me here, that's the kind of development I envisioned would have been happening on Main Street. Cottages on Main, they're cute, they're quaint, they fit with the small town atmosphere. I never envisioned when Madison and Main went up that something like that would be happening on Main Street in Waunakee. And that just opened up for Cookie to happen. And now we have T-Wall breathing down our neck wanting another big one on Main Street. I think it's just opened everything up because the comprehensive plan was not followed by all of the apartment complexes. And what we, when you read this thing, and I have it all printed, we've read it, several of us, would have never imagined Madison and Main and Cookie being developed on Main Street. Cottages on Main, yes. An all-inclusive one-unit thing, sure, I get that. You wanted redevelopment in those tiny houses and stuff. That fit with Main Street and what it would have looked like for a small community, a farming community. But not what's happening now. And I know there's nothing we can do about those past ones any longer, but I get what Joanne is saying with the small town feel being just eliminated, totally eliminated by the buildings that are being allowed to come in.
Okay. Ms. Lafayette?
Hi, Vera Lafayette, 5027. I guess one of my questions, I don't have a problem with apartment buildings. I just don't know why they have to all be on Main Street.
Right.
You know, can't they be somewhere else? Another concern I have on like the whole Main Street net, with like even like Lone Girl and that, with the little shops that everybody parks on Main Street. Well, if you've tried to pull out anywhere in this town, it's so hard to even see around the cars or whatever. I mean, and I know you added with the roundabout, it changed things because when there was a light there, you could, like, Elaine was on West Street in Maine, we could quick zip across when the light changed. But now with the roundabout, there's no slowdown. Everybody's always coming. So have you guys thought of like any lights or anything, adding more lights? Especially if you have all these little shops and people parking all their cars on Main Street too. I don't know.
I don't know that we've considered more lights on Main Street at this point.
We've inquired with the DOT about solutions to help with pedestrian crossings. One, for example, there's one spot where we have these alternating LED flashers, which are not perfect. You still got to be careful, but they're people recognize them. We made a request to put another pair at the village's expense on the opposite side of the tracks, and the state denied our request. Something to do with timing of the railway and the fact that a car could get stuck between the two flashers where the railway is. Anyway, point being, the challenge is the state highway component. And it's not that we're not opposed to finding solutions. We just got to try to find the ones that are going to be supported by them as well, because their objective is to move traffic. That's what they're eager to do.
We move it down, but we got to be able to pull out once in a while.
I understand. So I don't think our work is going to end on trying to find solutions related to that. The question brought up about O'Malley Street today was a good point. So I think there's reason to keep looking and fighting for solutions.
So I'm going to ask, I have a favor of everybody. I want 5 minutes. Not to go to the bathroom, not to get a drink, but you to think of something that is really good in Waunakee. Because that's the hardest thing of the listening sessions is when people focus on what they're not happy about. Are there things that are good in the village that you see right now? Maybe we have one of those. Murphy Park, okay?
Actually, I think it's called Village Park now.
Village Park,
I love
Murphy
the creek
Field.
running through it and the bridges, it's beautiful.
Perfect.
The village and senior center, the village center.
The Village and Senior Center, okay?
The only thing is, what I agree with Vera's thing. I live on 7th Street, so I go up West Street to 2nd. I cannot get out onto Main to go down, and I volunteer a lot at the senior center. I have to take 2nd Street, and if I want to go someplace else, I go down and hit a light. I mean, it is, we sat there on a Sunday, 15 minutes, because of the roundabout, there's constant traffic. You know, and like when she said we had lights, you could at least get out there when the light changed.
Okay.
So I agree that the traffic is.
I think one of the nice things is that our schools are what brought most of us here, that if we're not long-time residents forever and ever, our kids going to school here, so that's a wonderful thing. And one of the things that why we're all here and why we're engaged and worried about what's going to happen to Waunakee is because it's a great place to live. I mean, we like living here. We want it to keep its small town atmosphere. We want it to continue to be that I know my neighbors and can go, across the street and talk or whatever and keep that feeling. So
Perfect. Mary Ellen?
I want to refer to the Andy Berge story. I always thought when I heard that maybe the residences on 2nd Street were going to be torn down, I thought the house that the community gathered together to fix up, to take care of this family so that they could take care of this dying boy without pain. All the people in the community work together, the tradesmen, the decorators, the teachers, the churches, to make it happen. I think that should be a monument to what a good community Waunakee is. And that's what I was afraid we were going to lose.
Perfect, good story. Nyla?
Ever since we moved to Waunakee, our family has appreciated the park up on Division, the hill, the study hill. We have worked hard over many years to keep that hill open, and it's a great place to sled and toboggan, and it's a good place for a lot of young people just to go have a good time during the winter.
I agree, that was like my favorite place to go in the wintertime. And you know what? They put some darn houses down there.
I know.
And changed the whole run.
It created some work in the neighborhood, but we got it done.
Aisha?
I love walking alleys with my kids and my new puppy. I think it feels really safe. It's easy to get around. It's also why, yes, you get to peek in everybody's backyards. It's just really, for me, I appreciate the old town feel and really love that we have those alleys to access.
I don't know this for sure. I think the alleys were put in originally for garbage pickup.
And safety.
I think that's what the reason was.
Fire also.
I had one I grew up on Fifth Street. I
They
had
don't
one
get much
behind
garbage there now.
it. I used it for bike ramp jumping, but
Yeah.
that was me. Yes.
Well, actually, if you look at all the yards and things in the older part of town, number one, they're longer yards.
Right.
And before people had cars, they had horses.
Right.
And they used to have stables for horses along where the alleys were. But it was the detached garage, and the alleyway was their entry and exit. But the other thing is that those lots are longer, because in the olden days, people always had massive gardens. And they always planted all the green trees toward the front of the lot, so that they had plenty of sun in the back for the gardens. And that's what makes them so special.
I think I've said this to you before. That was well said.
Pardon?
That was well said. I think I said that to you before. Hank?
I would add to what Mary Ellen's saying, actually, the worst fences there, but really that fence also served the purpose as the fourth wall to the outpost.
Hold on, everybody. I can't hear you. Go ahead. Nothing hurts. I couldn't hear you. There was too
Nice
much
job on
chatter.
Highway Q, he said.
I just sent you an email one time that when Highway Q was done, that they got it right, they did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
People remarked how well the grass came up between the sidewalk and the curb on it, which was great. And then I got really another.
Yes, sir. He was complimenting Highway Q and how good a job our contractors did, and the grass replacement, every detail was handled very well by them. And the sidewalks. By the way, I was really can I just digress for 1 second? I completely support sidewalks. Is there anybody here who doesn't support sidewalks? All right. So I'm putting my chest out. Do you see me pull my chest out there? I have been under the belief that you should have sidewalks on both sides of every road.
Yeah.
Anybody disagree? Okay? And I don't agree with not having a finished sidewalk on a different road where it ends in the middle of nowhere. Does anybody else agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay? So, come to the meetings when we talk about sidewalks. All right, is what I'm saying. That is one of the most contentious topics that we have. Up until December, that was the contentious topic. Roberta? Okay. All right, Hank, your comment. I talked about Highway Q and then you had a question.
I got no problem with sidewalks either, as long as they're put in when the place is developed. That's okay. But my real question was, Simon Crestway stops on Woodland Drive. At what point in time is that gonna go through the cornfield and meet up with Peaceful Prairie? And if and when it ever does, as much as I hate roundabouts, Woodland and Simon Crestway, if you're gonna do it now before you let growth or buildings or whatever come in.
Okay, so when you come to the meeting on Thursday, can you put those back up?
Well, I can bring up that actual plan here.
No, I want you to bring up the topics for the agenda. Woodland Crest, Hank?
Simon Crestway.
So Woodland Crest, which is going to be that area you're talking about when it's going to go through, that's what we're talking about at that meeting.
I can show it, Chris.
Which one is it? Where is Woodland Crest?
On the bottom, right there.
Right here, number 6, Hank. Hy-Vee is presented and they would like to go in that location. And who would like to see Hy-Vee here? Anybody not like to see Hy-Vee?
That's another good thing.
Okay, we got some that don't want to see Hy-Vee, that's okay. Now, all of you who had your hand up, just gonna ask you, what's your opinion, should they receive TIF assistance?
No.
What's that?
High end.
How can you
Okay.
turn them down?
So TIF assistance would be things like infrastructure improvements. Because there's gotta be infrastructure improvements that have to take place to get that grocery store there.
Yeah, you should clarify, Chris. TIF directly to Hy-Vee or TIF to build
Sorry,
the streets?
TIF to build the streets and such, not to Hy-Vee, but TIF to build the streets and the infrastructure.
Yes, that makes sense.
Tell them if they want to come in, they build them themselves.
What did Piggly Wiggly have to do when they built?
They didn't build their streets.
The street was already there, wasn't it?
Right.
So let's ask this, if a TIF doesn't build the streets and we choose to bring the grocery store in, you could say that the grocery store, I guess, could have to pay for it. Or all the taxpayers have to pay for it outside of the TIF.
So who would the TIF go to if it's not
To pay for the roads. So Highway Q, which Hank just talked about, how much was that road? Does anybody know?
a TIF for the village?
I was told $6 million.
$6.3 million is what Highway Q ran, that you were complimenting. Okay? The TIF, the Kilkenny TIF is what the funding came for to pay for it.
Yeah, but Turney still gets that $6 million back. I mean, it's still the taxpayers. You guys make it
So I
sound
don't
like
wanna-
TIF money.
I'm letting you know that that money from those residences and those businesses, they all pay their taxes still, go into that pool, and that money is used for that infrastructure. That's where
In
those
other words,
taxes
this
go. They all
part-
pay the same amount of taxes they would normally pay. They don't get a discount on their taxes. They don't not pay taxes. All the businesses that are in that TIF, that's where the revenue's coming for, to pay for those improvements.
So where does the money
Okay.
go then?
Can I,
But isn't the developer the person who gets the TIF money? I think that's going to be the developer. We know
Yeah.
that the people who build homes on the property, or buy a home that the developer built, we know they're paying taxes, but the developer isn't paying his yet.
They're all paying their taxes. There's nobody that doesn't pay a tax.
But all the money goes to that central location, it doesn't go throughout the
Correct.
village.
It doesn't go
So
through,
if I
it's
don't,
paying
if I
for
don't
that
use
specific
Highway
thing.
Q, I'm
You
paying
don't
money
use-
for something, I'm just, hypothetically, if I didn't use Highway Q, I'm paying taxes for something that I'm not gonna
No.
use.
If Highway Q has used TIF money from there, that TIF money is from those places that are in there. So, what's the businesses out there? We've got Animart and all those different businesses pay their taxes. And about that money from those taxes is going to that road.
That's correct.
But your taxes you don't have an increase in taxes from that.
But isn't Huggy receiving?
Yeah, this is a whole other listening session. We can go to a lot of details on that.
Didn't
But-
Huggy receive TIF money for part of his project, or is it just for the extension of the road?
So, okay, before we
Is that
switch to
different
Hubby,
than what
if you
we're
want to switch to
talking
Hubby, we're talking
No,
about
I'm just
Kilkenny and
talking,
out
I'm
here.
just trying to ground it in a developer,
Mhm.
right? So, because that's what you're saying, is like the TIF money pays for the roads
And infrastructure.
and infrastructure. So like the gas and the electric and all of that, correct?
Yeah, we're gonna do a totally different listening session for TIF as they come about. I think it's important for people to get all the facts on those and the details, and it's too hard for us to do that in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
How about the village having a TIF education program where you bring in a TIF expert, pros and cons of TIF, 2 experts, and then we'll have a 2 or 3 hour session. They can explain the pros and cons of TIFs on an educational level so that we in the village here can understand what a TIF even is.
Good
Okay.
idea.
Why don't we do that?
Okay, I think that's a great idea.
Well, when's the date? Let's set it up and get it going. We got all these TIFs coming up, we got all these problems, let's do it. Let's have an educational program with a pro and a con, and it has to be picked by a civilian committee. A committee of citizens will find the pro and the cons to come in, not the village.
Could you help us?
And then
with
we'll
that?
have a good educational program on it, and so people can get educated what a
yeah.
TIF is.
Sure.
I mean, it's a statewide state-run program.
Yeah, well,
He's asking for people. It's like, all right, well, you're basically inferring that we're gonna bring in experts that are on the side opposite of you. That's not
Well,
not
that
my
happened this
intent.
winter, when you
well,
had
I
your
would
experts.
just
come
point
in.
out the county does, I don't, but the county executive does appoint one person on each TIF board, and is one of two people from the county that go to it. And I'm sure one or both of them would be delighted to come in and talk about TIF, and they're neither pro nor con, they just judge each one on its merits, but yeah, I would be happy to help get one or both of them to come in to talk about it.
So we could have it like suppose that this is gonna be built here, they're asking for a TIF, and then take us from the beginning to the end of it.
Sure, they would
All
love
right.
to do that. I'm
Some-
sure
some-
they'd love to have an audience that is interested in TIFs to hear them talk about
Right, okay.
TIFs. Sure, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. To help educate the community on what all this is.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary?
So we were also wondering, if the rezone goes through on Second Street, will those houses be allowed to start any kind of business in them then? If, let's say, they are approved for commercial? What will that do to those houses? Can they switch them to commercial buildings then?
I don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer to that.
We'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Ann? You're not.
Okay. Something that would be helpful, because I too thought about the bridge and the tunnel under Main Street, getting back to that. And I called up and I talked with a very helpful bike ped coordinator, learned more about the issues involved with the concerns of the railroad. But since we are, I want a vibrant, beautiful downtown with places to go, but for me, it's a little bit hard to envision what can actually happen to alleviate some of that traffic concerns, to make those crosswalks safe, to let people get out of those south-facing streets. And I understand that it's a multi-jurisdictional issue, so it would be very helpful if you guys could reach out to the DOT and have them come to Public Works or something else and really help the community understand. And I only say this because when developers come in and swear, oh, we're gonna put in a turn lane, and we look and we say, really, guys? So just so that we as a community understand what's really realistic planning versus fantasy planning, and so then people don't get all riled up, they just say, that's not doable, right? And so the request is to have somebody from the DOT talk to us and let us know what can legitimately happen on Main Street.
My question. They were just in to talk with us about, with the roundabout and the impact on, I don't know the around where Arboretum Drive comes and meets at. So, yeah, former one, yes, Arboretum Drive. So that's not necessarily the best intersection between left and right. So they're looking at that one more. Promise.
I have a question about the apartments with retail. Talking about T-Wall wanting to have a building and have commercial and retail. How they have retail. Madison, Maine has retail space. The building that has Lone Girl has retail space. The existing buildings still have open space. So what's going to be going in? All these retail. What shops? I mean, there are places now that are vacant.
What would you like to see?
Clothing.
Ice cream shop.
I just was at one of the #1 ice cream shops in the state of Wisconsin.
Huh?
Sorry,
You were
Michigan.
just at one?
Over the weekend. Ice cream shop. It was a beautiful little ice cream shop. Okay, ice cream shop, a clothing shop. What other things would you like to see?
Crafts. Crafts.
Crafts? Okay, crafts.
But this kind of gets to the Economic Development Committee meets at 9 a.m. in the morning, or the last meeting was. So you limit, young people working, you're not getting their ideas of what they would want. So if they could actually meet.
tourism met in the morning, WEDC met at 5.
Okay. Across the board, meetings during the daytime, if you're working, you can't make them.
Yeah, I agree.
And so if meetings to be at 7, I mean, village board meetings used to be at 7. I think in the last 2 years it just changed, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, it went to 6, several years back. I don't know exactly when. What other things?